Well, good morning, everyone. This is Keith with Positively Osceola, another one of our Positively Osceola live. And it is one day past Super Bowl. It is the first day of the work week. So combine those things, and everybody is absolutely crisp and ready for a fine week. I know I am. So I hope you are as well. So happy Monday. I love Mondays. It's like a fresh start, new chance to do some good stuff. And even though I'm not a big fan of the word stuff, I used it early, and that's probably because it's Monday. So moving on, we have got a good friend of ours with us this morning. So I cannot think of a better way to start the week, and that is with State Representative for District 46, Kristen Arrington. How you doing?
I'm doing, Keith. Good morning. Happy Monday to you.
So is it cooler in Tallahassee than it is in this little area here we live in?
I think it's always cooler in Tallahassee. When I was driving back on Friday, I think it was about 60 when I left Tallahassee. And by the time I made it to Central Florida, my thermostat said 87. And I said, how could that happen? But same thing on the way up. It went reverse. So always a little cooler up here, but kind of good for a Monday. Like you said, a nice little crisp Monday, and gets us off started for the week the right way.
It was a windy day yesterday. We had it was a lot of fair happening right now in Osceola County. A lot of rodeo, a lot of fair, and a lot of wind. So I'm assuming you got some of that. If you were already there, you got some of that up north as well.
I did. In fact, Saturday night we drove up here, and we had wind advisories a little bit on the way we saw on the highway, and you definitely felt that it was blowing you a little bit. But all of my memories at the fair as a kid, I think it was always a cool night when we did the all you can ride for an unlimited fee, because I remember always being in a jacket and being freezing, but making sure that I rode every ride multiple times.
That's funny. I know myself and some of the KVLS folk, we laughed about a week or two ago saying, my gosh, I cannot wait to taste all that fair food. And then, and no regrets, but I've eaten quite a bit of it. And
what's your favorite thing?
What's that?
What's your favorite fair food?
Well, it's an easy hit for me, but I this time it changed a bit. But I go straight to the Italian sausage, peppers, and onions on a big hoagie roll, and I just go for it.
I'm a funnel cake girl. I like elephant ear, funnel cake, whatever you call it, but that's my go-to.
If I remember correctly, there are 3 or 4 of those opportunities on the old Midway area. So yeah, they're doing a great job over. KVLS is such a great job, and I know you know that. And, so it's very cool. So we got a few people popping on. If it's okay with you, you're going to make this official. Cool.
Let's do it.
All righty. Well, again, we want to welcome Kristen Arrington, state rep from District 46. She's up in Tallahassee right now, but taking a few minutes just to speak to us, keep us updated what's going on. Certainly, always something going on as far as the Florida legislature, and what is said to be a part-time job just looks a little bit like a full-time job. But never complain. I will say, you never complain about that, and so we appreciate you taking a few minutes to speak with us about what's going on in and around that Florida legislature. So good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on, Keith. I appreciate it because I'm always able to get everybody up to date, because as you said, there is stuff always going on up here in Tallahassee, and I know everybody is very busy and it's hard to keep up on things. I know just my 4.5 hour drive here, usually by the time I arrive, I've checked social media and something has happened in those 4.5 hours that I've missed that I have to catch up on.
Right. Know it. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you and just kind of give us the 1-2 punch of what's going on. What's going to go on, I guess, is actually almost more appropriate at this point.
Sounds great. Well, I am going to give kind of a recap of last week, which was a committee week and special session running simultaneously, which is the first time that that's happened for me. And just to kind of explain how that works for folks at home is our committee weeks usually happen before session. and all the bills go through multiple committees before they come to the House floor. They're kind of vetted, so to speak, along the way. Once a bill is filed, it's signed to a couple committee stops, maybe more, and then it goes to the House floor for a vote. So this last week we had a special session on 6 different bills. So we had committees to meet and approve those bills before they went to the House floor. But then at the same time, we had committee meeting to go over bills that were kind of on the regular schedule. So I definitely felt sorry for some folks that were like on appropriations, because Monday night they met at, I think, 7 p.m. to go over the bills that were going to be on special session. And then Tuesday morning they met at 9 a.m. to go over bills that were on the agenda for committee week. So, and it was very busy week. The bills that came up were monumental. A lot of people probably following them in the news. Just in the committee week bills, our regular bills, we saw permitless carry went through a committee, and then also we had legislation heard to raise the caps on sovereign immunity for local governments and hospitals. So that was going on, and those were kind of bills of interest to people at home. But then at the same time, we were having a special session, like I discussed, where we heard the Reedy Creek reauthorization bill, and we heard a bill to help college athletes to go ahead and start making money on sponsorships and on their names. And so those were some ones that we heard. And we also heard emergency management, giving more money to our local governments. And then unfortunately, we heard 2 that were more of the culture wars. One was giving a statewide prosecutor opportunity to go after folks like returning citizens that vote. And then another one was a program to transport what they called as unauthorized aliens, which I've never heard a human being called an alien. So those were the bad ones, so to speak. And those passed, but they did along a party vote. And then the other ones that were positive, we all voted for unanimously. So it definitely was an interesting week. I felt sorry for the freshmen that just got sworn in November to come up and have to do a special session and committee week together. But I have to say, everybody was extremely engaged, asked a lot of great questions. If you watch the committees and if you watch the floor, the debate was robust. There was debate on both sides. We used all of our time. So it was great to see the process in action and having everybody be able to participate.
I had mentioned certainly there are some that are, that got back, certainly the whole state seeing some of the things, the Reedy Creek district, certainly that's a big one in the news. And something that directly hits, not that doesn't, but directly hits the Osceola County deal is the transportation funding. Some of those things happening, you and I were talking prior to going live today that the FDOT's got the official ribbon cutting of the diverging diamond interchange out by Champions Gate. Some of those projects, that's a tough area as far as getting to Tampa from I-4. So I know some of those dollars are being proposed. I guess that moves to the regular session though, as far as discussion and voting, correct?
Correct. And I think that, that will come out in our normal budget. And I'm glad you brought that up, Keith, because unfortunately, with everything going on the news, a lot of folks didn't see that announcement that we do have tons of dollars that's going to be coming to our region for transportation to help things out, especially on I-4 Ultimate area. And that was a really positive, but it's unfortunate when there's a lot going on, or when we sometimes have these bills or these situations that takes all the air out of the room, so to speak, and makes the media. We don't get to hear the positive things like that. But I know everybody in Osceola is always excited for opportunities to improve their commute and make transportation easier for us.
So, I mean, and we didn't talk about this prior, so hope it's something we can fit in. So the concealed weapon permit. So that's I would think that's going to be something that's a tad bit temperature rising for sure. Is that something what do you, is that in your estimation, is that going to look like it's going to move forward?
I think so. I think it should be in a committee that I'm in, Judiciary, next, and we're not meeting this week, but we will be meeting next week, and the agenda hasn't come out for that yet. I assume that will be on the agenda for us. It's next natural step. It's really interesting because folks on my side of the aisle, most of them are against it. We're for safe safe gun ownership. We're not, wanting to take away your guns, but we do want safe gun ownership. And I'm thankful that we're not hearing it this week when we have the anniversary of the Pulse shooting on, Parkland shooting on Valentine's Day. So I think that would have been very, very horrible and very tasteless if we would have heard it this week. So I think that that's kind of why it does have a little bit of a pause, and we'll be hearing it next week. But I would say on the other side, some folks think that this legislation doesn't go far enough. Right. So it's very, very interesting that, on my side of the aisle, we're against it, but I almost think the other side of the aisle, they don't feel that this legislation doesn't go far enough. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is used in messaging, or if it changes along its path.
Yeah, I'm in this place where my life where, I really enjoy seeing individuals that have different opinions, discuss things. That's where I am, and I think more often than not, those kind of discussions can really net some gain, and I know that particular subject is a challenge for sure.
Well, and also a lot of times, we have our individual feelings on this, but then a lot of times we don't know what the legislation actually is proposing, and realizing that, sometimes you're arguing for something and that's not really what's in the bill, or, it's what's not in the bill. So that, I think, is really interesting when you get in these conversations and you say, well, that's not actually in the language here. So I do think, unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out there about it, but it is most definitely a very hot topic. Probably this session so far, it's the email clogging that I see the most of different variations on, constituents reaching out from all over the state asking us to vote no on it.
Gotcha. Anything that you're going to be bringing to the table, so to speak, that you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I believe it's today we have our deadline for our appropriations to submit requests for funding. So that's going to be going on this week. We're all going to be kind of probably running around trying to make sure that our appropriations get into the budget. So that's really exciting for us. We're putting in some requests in for Kissimmee, and also for Osceola Recovery Center, which we did last year, but unfortunately it was vetoed by the governor. And of course, my friend over there, Mary Downey at Hope Partnership, they do a great job. And so they're going to be bringing an appropriation request as well together. I'm trying to get kind of a nice little summary from each of them. So next time we meet, I can kind of give you a little bit more, and I'll go through each of those items a little bit so folks can weigh in, and maybe they can help as well to push some things forward. One is to help with a flooding project in Kissimmee. So I know that will be important to folks after we just had our historic flooding, and many folks unfortunately lost their homes or had their homes extremely damaged. And of course, working on Hydrilla, I don't want to jinx anything, but trying to get some FWC meetings with our team, just to make sure that we can let them know that this is a priority for us addressing in Osceola, and how can we look at long-term plans to address this problem, so we're not keep doing these quick fixes of spraying every so often and then everything comes back worse than before.
And in that scenario, you're talking primarily at Lake Tahoe itself, in the Kissimmee area and beyond, right?
Correct. I don't know enough about Lake Runnymede area, but I know that they have an appropriation request. Keith, I think it might be Representative Hawkins might be doing it, or Representative Stark, because I think they've done that before, where there's a problem where they can't even access that area of the lake to treat it or to study or look at it. So I think that on our end, we're looking at trying to make sure that they can access it. And then in Kissimmee area, we think with the flooding that we've had recently with the hurricane, that this is also a good opportunity to tell folks, we were at lake capacity, and our hydrilla issue added to that problem as well.
To the lack of regulated or regular flowing, correct?
Correct. Because if you see, we see hydrilla sometimes and it looks like green sludge on the water, but then it ends up growing into this grassy field, and you drive by the lake and you're like, wow, there's a whole field there in the middle of the lake, and that's the hydrilla choking up, and then our boats can't navigate, water can't move as it's supposed to, and not only does it look bad, but it's not the best for our environment and not best for our economy when we have all of our fishing tournaments and the folks that want to come here and enjoy that beautiful lake.
Yeah, personally, I really, being in the county and around the county a lot, I really applaud And I really applaud. I mean, like, not just say that because we're sitting here on live right now, but I super applaud that you work with Mary Lee Downey and you work with a recovery program. I mean, I think sometimes, and I know we've said these things before. I just think it's okay to say it again. The county is a rapidly growing region. Certainly, Central Florida is rapidly growing. The state of Florida is rapidly growing. What grows with that are situations that, so easy to ignore in everyday life. Yay, and I love the fair, but yay, the fair is here. Wow, I love rodeo, but we forget that there are things happening that need to be addressed, and assistance is needed for organizations that make that happen. And so, I mean, I applaud you for stepping up, being a champion for those organizations. I mean, Mary Lee Downey does a great job with Hope Partnership and, the other organizations you work with. And I think it's so challenging for communities to it doesn't happen organically only, it just doesn't. So I'm glad you're an advocate for those organizations big time.
Well, it makes it easy because they are all very well seen in the community, the work that they do. And so, them keeping me up to date and them letting us know what they need assistance with that they're not getting with makes our job easier. So we're able to help where we can and not meddle where we shouldn't to,
Right.
mess things up with what they're doing and, let them do what they do, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's called wisdom right there, right?
Well, it's all about bandwidth too, Keith. What do we all have time for? So if Mary Downey is doing a great job at what she's doing, then let's just help her succeed rather than trying to compete or take away from that.
So you end up in the regular session. It's March 6th, is it?
I believe so. I'm not looking at the calendar, but March 6th or 7th-ish, right around there.
Both those days were banging around my head. So either one, we're off a day if we miss a day at all. So what are your biggest aspirations? Is when that's going to be, there'll be some wins, some non-wins possibly. So what is your hope that when you finish out the regular session, you're driving home, what are your greatest aspirations to try to knock out for the community?
Absolutely. Well, as discussed, definitely bringing home the dollars. That's a big deal. That's something that we can see a great, where you're able to see an impact. Last year bringing home dollars for a public safety training facility for Kissimmee, and then bringing home some money for Mary Downey for a hotel motel conversion. So the dollars is very important. Also, the legislation I've discussed before that we're looking to get across the finish line this year, which would expand what's parents and students yearly notification that they receive from the schools that lets them know about AP and four-year college university options. We want to make sure that they know about the career and technical pathways close to home, and also make sure that that is presented to them in a language that they understand. We really want to make sure that all the students in Florida have that opportunity. I'm also speaking with folks a lot throughout the state, letting them know about Osceola Prosper and how we are giving free education here in Osceola County to our students, to OTEC or Valencia, and that we really need to take that model up in other areas. If there's areas that have workforce problems and issues, that this is something that we need to look at, and also just trying to find other ways to bridge that workforce gap on training, but also making sure that we have affordable housing dollars here, and also that we are able to provide workforce housing to our folks. I'm always trying to make sure too, Keith, it's unfortunate that I have to do this, but I have to make sure and remind people that I'm from Osceola County. People don't realize Osceola exists. Everybody thinks we are Orange County. So many a times I'm making sure that I'm letting folks know about Osceola County, what a unique community we are, between having ag and between having tourism, that, we are a very unique, diverse, and the fastest growing community. So always making sure that we have a voice at the table is a big deal for me. And then additionally, being in the super minority party, the Democrat caucus, and me being a deputy whip and being Democrat ranking member on 2 of the committees, I just really want to make sure that I'm doing the best job that I can for my team. Make sure that, those times when we're arguing for the people and we're maybe on the opposite side with the majority party, make sure that our team is organized, that we're bringing up proper questions, proper debate. Sometimes, unfortunately, with these culture wars, we end up going into lawsuits with this legislation afterwards. So sometimes it's important to get certain things on the record to help with those lawsuits. So just really, besides being great for Osceola and bringing home some money, really want to make sure that I'm a good team player for the Democratic caucus and for the people of Florida, just to make sure that our team really is fighting for them and doing it efficiently and doing it effectively.
Well, I think you work really hard. I appreciate, I said this before as well. I think you communicate very, very well. I think that's a challenge for a lot of folks, and I get it, because, you're busy, you're focused on something you have to get done. There's a certain amount of time, and then, there's the need to communicate. And so my hat's off to you again for doing that. That's a big deal. I appreciate you. And, part of that is, you being available to speak to us as you are. So thanks so much for doing that. You're in a complex business up there for sure. No question about it, but we think you do a great job and we appreciate you.
Absolutely. And thank you all again for having me on. You make it easy for me to communicate with folks when I'm able to check in here weekly and not just share it on my channel, but get it to folks who maybe aren't following me or don't know what's up. So I always appreciate the opportunity, and give the plug that you see below. You can email me to get updates, or you can call our office. Even when I'm in Tallahassee, Chris is here in the district office and he's able to answer your calls. And then, of course, follow me on social media at Arrington4FL, the number 4. And that's on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And I think I'm going to be changing my YouTube channel name too shortly. And so follow me on those two so you can receive the updates.
Because social media changes pretty darn often, doesn't it?
It does. Like I said, when I'm driving up to Tallahassee, once I've stopped and I look at Twitter, it looks like a lot of news has happened in 4 hours these days, and it's very, very fastly moving. So some of those times I might even miss some of these updates, but I'll definitely keep you guys up to the loop of what I'm up to and what's going on up here in Tallahassee. So please follow along. Very cool.
Again, we appreciate your time, and we will rebroadcast this as well. Certainly, any of the channels. This is on 5 channels right now, but we'll send out another reminder to folks that they can go see that on demand when it fits their schedule, so they can get some of this information as well. Cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I will see you this weekend at the rodeo.
Yes, that's going to be awesome. Looking forward. It's going to be a busy weekend for sure. So, between fair and rodeo, it's a great time in Osceola County.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Again, well, we appreciate you being here, Representative, and look forward to seeing you this weekend, and then look forward to speaking to you again after whenever you want to, basically. So
after this week, we can figure it out for Friday or next Monday, but I would love to give you all an update on what happens this week in our committees. We've had our agendas drop, but we haven't had our summaries for all the bills yet. So I'm sure I'll have a lot to report on after the week concludes.
Very cool. Again, we appreciate you. This is Keith with Positively Osceola, along with State Representative Kristen Arrington for District 46. Together, making a positive difference in and around Osceola County. Happy Monday, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great week.
You as well.